this is Jill from the Cozy Company. Today I'm going to walk you through how to make this little heart pillow. This is a beginner plus pattern, so having a little bit of finger knitting knowledge will really help. But take your time, pause when you need to, and just enjoy the process. For today's project, you'll need some yarn, polyfill for stuffing, a pair of scissors, and an optional stitch marker. Whenever you're ready, let's get started. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and grab our color of yarn, and we are going to make a slip knot. For those of you who aren't familiar, since this is a beginner-friendly pattern, what I'd like you to do is the tail in one hand and the working yarn in the other. I want you to go ahead and make a loop similar to the breast care awareness symbol, where the tail is on top. We are then going to take our working yarn, the yarn that's attached to our ball of yarn, and we're going to put it up and through that loop. We're going to grab it with one hand and we're going to pull down at the tail at the same time to tighten. Now we want our loops really small so that way the polyfill doesn't come out. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull on this working yarn to make that loop a little bit smaller, so it is about 2 fingers wide. Now that we have our slip knot, we're going to go ahead and chain on 3. So what that means is this loop does count as 1. So I'm going to lay it flat on the table. I'm going to take my thumb and my pointer. I'm going to put it through the loop, so going from the outside of the table towards the table. I'm going to grab and pinch the working yarn with those 2 fingers, and I'm going to pull up a loop the same size. So that was 2. I'm going to do that one more time. So again, take my thumb and my pointer. I'm going to put it through that loop, grab and pinch the working yarn to pull up a new loop the same size. So we now have a foundation chain of 3. For row 1, we are going to pull up loops on the top portion of this foundation chain and then the bottom portion of the foundation chain. So right next to this loop here on the top portion, you can see kind of like a bump in the foundation chain. So right here. And that's where we're going to be working. So I'm just going to move my yarn to the other side because that's the direction I'm going to be working. I'm going to find that top bump of my foundation chain. I'm going to put my fingers through. I'm going to grab and pinch that working yarn to pull up a loop the same size. So now I have 2 loops sticking up. Once I do that, I'm just going to turn my work, and I want to pull up 2 loops on the bottom here. As you can see, there are 2 bumps. So this is 1 and this is number 2. So 1 and 2. I want to make sure my working yarn is over that tail. And then I'm going to do the same thing where I put my thumb and my pointer through that first bump. I'm going to grab and pinch this working yarn to pull up a loop the same size. So now I have 3 loops. And then I'm just going to do that one last time on that last bump right here. I'm going to grab and pinch the working yarn to pull up another loop. So now I have 4 loops that should all be around the same size. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go ahead and turn my work again, so that way my tail is to the right, because that is how I started. This was the very first loop that I pulled up, so this is loop number 1. The next row, I'm just going to knit all 4 of these loops. So these 2 are on my top, so I'm going to knit 1 and 2, and then again I'm going to turn my work so the tail is now on the left, but making sure that working yarn is going over the tail. So for me at this point, instead of putting it over the tail, I like to fold my work in half, so that way that tail is kind of just sitting on the inside, and then I can just pull up these 2 loops. This is optional, you don't have to do it that way, but I just find that it is easier to not have a space right here. So I'm just gonna flip my work back around. So now I'm back at loop number 1. And for the next row, we are going to increase. So we're going to knit 2, increase on the side, knit the back 2, and increase on the side. So I'm going to knit 2, so 1 and 2. And then to increase, I'm going to find the space between the loop that I just pulled up and my next loop. So right here on this side, you can see that there's yarn in between them. I'm gonna find that space right here, and I'm just gonna pull up another loop. I'm gonna pull my yarn through to create another loop. So as you can see, where there was just 2, 1, 2, I've just created another loop, so now I have 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna turn my work again so I can knit those back 2, and then I'm gonna pull up another loop on this side here, so I will have a total of 6 loops. So that's loop number 3 and loop number 4. And then before I get back to that very first loop, I'm gonna find the space between loops 4 and 1, and I'm gonna pull up another loop. So right here. So now at this point, I should have a total of 6 loops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For the next row, I'm going to do pretty much the same thing, except I'm going to knit 3, increase, knit 3, and then increase again. So I will have a total of 8 loops. So I'm going to knit 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then before I knit this next loop, I'm going to find the space in between them, and I'm going to pull up another loop to increase. So as you can see here, I had loops 1, 2, 3, and then I've just pulled up another loop for the 4th loop. Now I'm going to turn my work. These were the back 3 loops that we had of the 6 from the previous row. So I'm going to knit these 3, and then I'm going to pull up another loop right here between the last loop and the first loop. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to find that space between the last loop I just did and the first loop, and I'm going to pull up one more loop. So now after that row, I should have a total of 8 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. For the next row, we are just going to knit all 8 of these loops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. For the next row, we're going to do some increases again. We're going to bring these 8 loops to 12 loops. So we are going to knit 2, increase, knit 2, increase, knit 2, increase, and knit 2, increase. So I'm going to knit the first 2 loops. So 1, 2. Then I'm going to find the space between the second loop and my third loop, and I'm going to pull up a loop. So now where I had 2 loops, I now have 3 loops. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to knit the next 2 again. So 1, 2, and again I'm going to increase. So I'm going to find the space between the last loop I just pulled up and my next loop, and I'm going to pull the yarn through to create a new loop. Then I'm going to knit 2, 1, 2, and again increase. So find that space between the last loop you just pulled up and the next loop, and you're going to push the yarn through to create a new loop. I'm going to do that one more time. So knit 2, 1, 2, and then find that space in between the last loop you just pulled up and your next loop, and you're going to pull the yarn through to create a new loop. So at this point you should have a total of 12 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. For the next 2 rows, we are just going to knit these 12 loops. So we're going to knit 12 for 2 rows, or you can just knit a total of 24 if you don't want to stop in between each row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So for the next row, we are going to actually take these 12 loops and we are going to break them up into 2 sections of 6. So we're going to have loops 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, and 12. That's the first section we're going to work with. And then later we're going to come back and we're going to work with loops 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and 9. This will be our second section of loops. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and pull up the first 3 loops. So 1, 2, 3. We're just going to knit those like normal. So loops 1, 2, and 3. Instead of going to our 4th loop, I'm going to actually go ahead and flip my work. So these were the loops that I just knit. And instead of going to my 4th loop, I'm going to knit loops 10, 11, and 12. So that yarn is going to go across the heart right here, which is going to create that divide for the 2 bumps of the heart. So 10, 11, and 12. So as you can see, that kind of sectioned off the 2 portions of 6 that we did in the beginning. So now we're just going to focus on these 6 loops, and we're going to knit these 6 loops for 2 rows or a total of 12 loops, whatever way you prefer. So I'm going to knit for 2 rows, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to flip my work, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm now going to go ahead and take my scissors and I'm going to cut my working yarn, leaving about a 6-inch tail. And using that 6-inch tail, I'm going to go ahead and close off all 6 of these loops by inserting this tail through the inside of the loop going towards the outside, one at a time. So I'm going to take that tail and starting from the inside of the heart, going towards the outside, I'm going to put that tail through and gently pull. Then I'm going to do the same thing on my next loop, put the tail through the inside of the heart towards the outside and gently pull. I'm going to do that all the way around until I get through all 6 loops. Once I get through all 6 loops, I'm just going to gently pull until that hole closes up. I'm going to take my tail and tie a knot at the base of the tail. And then I'm just gonna insert that knot and the tail through that small hole where we closed up. And I'm just gonna use my scissors to help me get it through that small hole. So now that we've closed up one side of our heart, we're gonna go ahead and take our working yarn again, and starting in loop 4, we're gonna pull up a loop. So I'm gonna have my yarn towards the inside of my heart. I'm gonna put my fingers through loop 4, going from the front towards the back, and I'm just going to grab the yarn to pull up a new loop. We wanna leave about a 6-inch tail because we're gonna use that tail in just a few minutes. So now that I pulled up a loop through loop 4, I'm gonna knit loops 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that was loop 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So now that I've pulled up a new row of all 6 loops, I'm just going to do the same thing and knit these 6 loops for 2 rows or for a total of 12. So I'm gonna knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to take my scissors again and I'm going to cut my working yarn, leaving about a 6-inch tail. But before I close off this section of the heart, I'm going to take my polyfill and I'm just going to stuff the heart. So I want to make sure to get all the way up into that other side of the heart that we already closed off. And I want to make sure to get into the bottom portion right here. I want to make sure it's all nice and even. Now that I've stuffed my heart, I'm going to do the same thing with this 6 loops that I did before, where I take my tail and I insert it through each loop, going from the inside of the heart towards the outside and gently pulling each time. And I'm just going to pull until that hole closes up. I'm going to tie a knot at the base of that tail. And then I'm going to insert the tail and that knot through that small hole that we just closed up. So that way that section is closed off. As you can see, I still have that space in between the 2 sections, which is where that 6-inch tail is going to come into play. So I'm going to take this 6-inch tail and I'm just going to weave it back and forth of those 2 sides. I'm going to kind of sew it together with that tail so it closes up that space in between. And I'm just going to tuck that tail into the center of the heart. And that completes your small chunky knit heart pillow. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything at all, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is within the PDF. And again, thank you so much for choosing the Cozy Company and supporting my small business.